When I was 10, I loved epilepsy, or rather, I loved Christine, my older brother's girlfriend. I thought of her as Chris on fire, spending all of her soft watts in her name. I could set the word on fire because it was in italics. The world was a faint inferno, a white nimbus I saw around skulls. This did not worry me more than anything else, though I was impatient. People were burning. Couldn't we hurry up? The latest chanteuse lit her torch song in the radio night after night, and my 4th grade teacher gave the class so many scented stickers that we spent a lot of time sniffing our books, like we were addicted to those calm, reasonable texts. I kept praying to the maple outside my bedroom window. It was dying. I thought I could anoint it in some vague fashion, and it would work again. I felt removed, like Chris when she would blur from sleep to seizure when she forgot her meds, and Duncan would send me away. She got violent. She said things she never remembered. They were secret. They were essentially meaningless. They seem sexy now, like the arbitrary evolution of soul kiss to French kiss. She loved to spoon with us on the floor in front of the fire, her in the middle. I could not imagine how Duncan felt about this. She had cheated on him at his 15th birthday with his best friend. Often she would repeat her conditional wish to me, "If only you were older." She hid behind my body before I even knew it existed. If I could reach back through the silver oil slick of the eye, through the triptychs and ellipses, I'd say, "Look, I know that it is lovely, and only just 1983, but it's wrong to take this illness as an offering." These are latter days. You regard the writ of frost on the window pane as a blueprint for something yet to come, something severe and intricate. Every few weeks, the drowned pilot from the bay walks up the stairs dripping wet, but you go back to your bed over the furnace before he reaches the top. It's important to try to be practical about these things. See the apparition, then go back to sleep. Your sheets are stark parchment, lit by a burning telegram that gives off the incense of human hair. It's still 1985, and your mother is downstairs having sex with Hector and his cut-rate cocaine. When you tell this to your father, you add, "Forsooth?" Not everything about the medieval mind is witty, but you seem to think it makes you approachable. It does not. In your father's filing cabinet, a short letter claims your IQ is exclamation point, percentage, exclamation point, and you wish you never found it. It does not make the 5th grade any easier, and even though it seems like the last detail, you know that there are more to come. You'll notice I keep leaving things out. The articles, the antecedents scrawled with anatomy. It's not only because I'm afraid. When the people I love enter the Ampersand, they are changed. Like music. It is technically impossible, Rob tells me, to play a minor chord on a guitar, because the echo in the air makes it a major one. It was while Anne was playing Paganini's Moses fantasy that I realized I would never have sex with her. Sex was a red harmonic line she thought she could never make straight once someone troubled the waters. Paganini used to weaken the strings of his violin so they'd snap one by one during a performance. When he was finished, the music would never be wrecked quite that way again. This is probably why even his enemies respected him. I had been thinking of the Rubicon in Anne's mind, the formal refusal cut to let her look into her body alone and without the mist of another's anxiety on her reflection. That was wise of her. There I was, worrying that a headache's black opal didn't belong in the subjunctive. I'd spent a semester sounding out 16th century poets, scanning the segmented lines for each tinny accent. Their bitterness and fidelity equally composed, lacquered with such tact that it made me want to spit. Did they even deserve bodies? My dad shook his head. You have to remember, they felt like they had just invented reasoned discourse, and they needed it because they were wading through shit in the streets. He was right. Elizabethans specialized in the crux, the loop of rhetorical music, which is derived from the cross, the issue, and the insolvable problem, literally the torment of interpreters. I envied the way Anne lived all at once, her misspellings and malograms. When I asked if she was going to change for work, she'd lower her eyes and smile. No, I don't want to take off my fedora. It has mystic powers, you say. Even with logic or logos, I knew her fixed electricity would never be resolved on this or any other page. Not last year, but the year before, when I read at ABP, and I started with that poem, the next poet thanked me for establishing an air of abjection in the room, which I don't think he meant as a compliment, but which I took as one. You guys don't seem to need this, but I think I'll give it to you anyways. It's not statutorily forbidden to laugh at these readings, but I think you're on board, so no problem. A few years ago, I became fascinated with the idea of the genre of the divorce book. Books like Mary Jo Bang's Louise in Love, Anne Carson's The Beauty of the Husband, which Hart saw very much, James Galvin's X, and I thought I'd take a stab at it. And so I wrote Monograph. And you'll notice that people are identified only by their initials, which is for both legal and entertainment purposes. Thought back to that first October after moving to the city, both of us temping, broke and in debt, barely able to afford the rent on a basement efficiency next to the elevator, our sole extravagance, a bonsai tree stiffening on the window. Fairly certain we were doomed as a couple, repeating this to myself every night as I walked home in darkness through the close suburban streets, the smell of the sea infiltrating the fog, utterly ecstatic with rage. When my grandfather tried to tell my dad obliquely that my mother was mentally ill, he had to take him out on the water in a rowboat to do it. There they were safe, or at least equally in danger. He, like other northern fishermen, could not swim. These are the people I come from. R says C has been dredging up a bunch of sexual trauma. This is the second girl he's dated who was raped in the past. Last night he came home stoned. C was enraged, and when he turned his back on her, she punched him. He just said, "I can't believe you did that," then walked away. She rushed after him, shouting, "Wait, don't you want to know why I hit you?" N told me she trained herself to masturbate with highlighters. First one, then two, then three. It was her reward for doing homework. I cannot imagine she thought I would be able to resist lingering over this metaphor. How French to make scholarship sexy. How American to make the emphasis literal. Compared notes with D. He has sex about 3 times a month, while I only have it twice a month. He was cheerful. Well, it sounds like your marriage is in a lot worse shape than mine. He is thinking of bugging his wife's computer because he suspects she is cheating. She calls him drunk at 3 a.m. to ask him to come and pick her up from his friend's house. He wishes, with a great deal of fervency, that he could confirm his suspicion that she was sexually abused as a child. It's all very East German. The night Virginia Woolf finally slept over, her lover, Vita Sackville West, memorialized the event in her diary by simply writing 3 exclamation points. I myself would want 4, which demonstrates that the first thing one wants to do with a perfect metaphor is to wreck it. Went out last night with M in a lavender tie and a purple shirt. Felt like a sexual racketeer. Raymond Chandler would have approved. M says he is fighting every night with R, who's triumphantly agoraphobic. They both scream and cry and threaten to flee the apartment. Then they have sex. At first, I was frightened, then jealous, then frightened again. dreamed that a lot of people had been killed and buried in the sand, realized that this was Bloody Cove of my childhood, where a bunch of Native Americans were massacred and where I had daily lessons on the tennis courts every summer. According to my grandfather, this is what a well-bred young man did, along with sailing and ignoring the 21st century. Not terribly surprising that I tend to think of masculinity itself as a type of minor catastrophe. I'm sad, so I go alone to the candlelight mass at Christmas. My favorite part is the end, when the sexton brings down the lights, and I'm alone with the feeling of breathing in a dark building with hundreds of people. I think of the secret gospel of Mark, the one with the verses where Lazarus falls in love with Jesus after being raised. He spends the night alone with him, dressed only in a linen cloth, so that Jesus can teach him the mystery of God's domain. I reach out for N's absent hand in the pitch black. After swimming, E and I drive through the calm oaks on either side of the back road. We stop at a gourmet grocery set randomly beside a field, buy pomegranates and dark chocolate, and sit down at the edge of the parking lot. Watch the effortless light on the tall grass, the sun going down. E talks about masons, theoretical particles, her new love, what they do and don't have to do with one another. I say nothing, which makes me suspect that I'm happy. N would never let me kiss or lick the small serif on the side of her breast where they removed the mass. It was neither benign nor malignant, simply anomalous. I liked it because it made me think of the Japanese art of kintsugi. When a work of ceramic broke, they would inlay the cracks with gold and find it more beautiful afterward because it existed in time now and had a history. Thanks.